All right. In today's mini lecture, we're going to be looking at two of the P's in the marketing mix. Those are product and promotion. When we talk about products, we're talking about both products and services, but it's important to differentiate between them. Products are objects or systems that are made available to consumers that are tangible, meaning you can touch them. They're manufactured, they're stored, they're transported, they can be returned or replaced, and many times the products sold are identical to each other. So some examples include electronics, furniture, food items, vehicles, etc. A service is a transaction where no actual physical goods are transferred from the buyer to the seller. They're intangible, meaning you can't touch them. They can't be manufactured, they're not stored, they're transported, they're usually done by people. They can't be returned or replaced, and no service is ever exactly the same. Examples are house cleaning, car repair, medical checkups, haircuts. And so when we look at the continuum of products and services over here, we can see that baking flour is a very standard product and something people buy quite frequently. It's kind of the same all the time versus a haircut, which is we can touch it. We can't really touch the service of somebody cutting our hair, but we can see that our hair is different. And it's never really exactly the same. I don't think anybody's ever had the exact same haircut twice. And there are some industries where you're kind of in the middle. So, for example, in a restaurant, you're providing a product, you're providing the food, but you're also providing a service, and that's the customer service of bringing the food and attending to the people eating it. There's two types of products. One's a consumer product and one's a business product. Over here on the left are consumer products. They're purchased for personal use. There's different types. There's convenience products, which we buy frequently and are expensive. So think of things like coffee and bread and razor blades and shampoo and all that kind of stuff. There's shopping products, which are a little bit more expensive, and we maybe buy a little less, but we still buy them. So maybe think of like a new winter coat or something, new shoes, etc. Specialty products are much more expensive, and consumers seldom purchase them. So things like a house or a car. And then there's unsought products, which are goods and services which people don't desire at all. And I think we've all seen a few of those. Then there's business products, and these are products that are purchased to use either directly or indirectly in the production of other products. They're products bought by businesses or organizations in order to do business. So things like office supplies, component parts, machinery, um, business services, software, printing services, etc., etc. So it's important to understand what product lines are and what your product mix is. So a product line is a group of products that are closely related. So for example, if you think of the brand Ortega, they make items related to making Mexican dishes, for example, or Lat, Latino food. And so basically, these are products that are closely related. So if we look at Ortega, they have taco shells and taco seasoning, burrito shells and soft shells, and taco sauce and rice and refried beans, everything that you might use to make a traditional Hispanic or Latino meal. Um, when a firm produces a product that takes sales away from its existing products, we call this cannibalization. And so we don't want that to happen. And so you can see that Ortega, they only have like one or two types of hard shell tacos. They're not going to have like 5 different lines of hard shell tacos because they don't want to compete with themselves. And then our product mix is the total number of product lines and individual items that are sold by a single firm. So we need to take a look at what do we all have within our product mix. So if we think about of a company like General Mills, General Mills has a variety of products from cereals to yogurt to baking goods, etc. And so what they do is they're very careful to make sure that of the 20 cereals they make, none of them truly are too similar because that would cannibalize them. It's also important to understand the product life cycle. This is something that you'll hear hopefully more than once. It's something I talk about quite often. Every product goes through this product life cycle. When we first develop a product, we have the introduction. So we're just starting to sell the product, it's just gaining some sales. we're really launching it. So profits just aren't real high here. In fact, a lot of times companies will see a negative profit, which is scary, but it happens. Then you see growth. You start to get more popular, more people are buying it, more people are adopting that product or service. And so you have some of your highest profit margins right here. In the maturity stage, many people have bought the product or service. Many people are using it. It's not new or novel anymore. Your profits tend to go down a little bit because you're going to start seeing more competition, but it's an okay stage to be in. Once a product or service becomes obsolete or people don't want it, then they go through the decline, and a lot of times we'll see that product is no longer offered. So an example there would be like a typewriter. You can still buy it because there are some people who use them, but it's kind of they're in the way decline stage of the product life cycle. So it's really important to understand what differentiates your product from your competitors. So what sets you apart? What does your product have that's different than the competition? How are you different? This, if you have a product that's significantly different from the competition, or a service, or you have some aspect of what you do that's different, then this is your competitive advantage. And basically, this is what sets you apart from everybody else. And this is literally one of the main concepts in business that businesses and organizations are trying to achieve is to have this competitive advantage of something they do better than everybody else because it's going to lead to higher profit. And so if we want to create a competitive advantage, we have to think about how we're positioned. So how are you positioned in compared to your competitors? So this is called a perceptual map. I just picked one for a restaurant, and these are all really large restaurants. And so you can see you pick two factors that you want to look at. Here they look at whether it's fast food or sit down and healthy or unhealthy. So you have an X and Y axis here. And so you can see that there's some fast food unhealthy, um, a little some that are kind of sit down, kind of not. And you go up over here and we have sit down of little unhealthy but yummy and some that are a little healthier. And what we're looking for is A, where do we fall in here? And B, where is there a gap and can I fill that gap? And so here I see a gap for sit down and healthy meals. And there truly is a gap in the market for that. You might choose to plot yourself differently too. So you might say, okay, I kind of like the fast food versus sit down, but I'm going to look at flavor, like bland versus full flavor. And I have really flavorful food. Excuse me about that. I use a lot of spices in my cooking, and so I'm going to promote myself on that, and that's what sets me apart. Or for example, the other night I was looking at getting takeout, and so I was like, oh, sushi would be good, or Chinese maybe. And then I was like, oh, there's a new Somali restaurant. I've never had Somali food, and there's only one in town. So I went there, and it was amazing. And I'm like, and for them, their competitive advantage is that they're the only one in town that provides that. So that's their competitive advantage. All right, branding is also really important, and branding is a product's identity that sets it apart from competition. So brand includes the name, the slogan, the logo. You want it to be memorable. You want it to be something people like and that appeals to them. Brand equity is the overall value of a brand to a firm. Many large companies actually put a dollar amount on their brand and include it on their financial statements even. There's different types of branding. Licensing is when a company sells its brand or its symbol to another company to use. So in this situation up here, you see the t-shirts. Marvel and DC will sell their logos and their brand symbols to t-shirt companies so the t-shirt companies can print t-shirts with their characters on them. And Marvel and DC just get a licensing fee. Co-branding is when you have two brands that work together here. Here we have Cadbury. So they have their dairy milk candy bar and they've partnered with Oreo. So it's the dairy milk with Oreo. All right. National brands are what we would call your name brands. So in this situation, we have Johnson& Johnson Head to Toe Baby Wash. A store brand or a private label brand would be like Target's Up and Up brand. They're very similar, but one's the national brand and one's the store or generic brand. Packaging is also super important. It provides a lot of benefits, such as protecting the product, attracts buyers' attention, provides information, stores the product, suggests products uses, and promotes the brand. I like this example because it really applies to me. I used to buy the cheapest popping corn I could find, except it came in a bag, and once you opened it, the bag didn't reseal, and then it would get all over my pantry. Now I have popping corn. I usually buy Jolly Time actually, and it's resealable. I spend a little bit more just so it's resealable. It doesn't store real well, so if I wanted to spend a little more and have it even be a little cleaner, excuse me, I would buy the Orville Redenbacher. So packaging does have many benefits. It's also important to understand promotions and integrated marketing communications. A promotion influences purchase decisions through information, persuasion, and reminders. Integrated marketing communication is just making sure that all of our promotional aspects, such as advertising, partnerships, PR, etc., that they all are cohesive and have the same message. So a few summers ago, Coca-Cola did a campaign where they had people's names on the bottles, and so that was a cohesive message in their advertising, direct mailing, public relations, etc. So the different types of marketing and advertising are listed here. So you can do TV, newspaper, magazines, sales promotion, social media, um, internet, digital media, websites, blogs, customer loyalty programs like punch cards, sales promotions, email marketing, personal selling, etc. And all of them have advantages and disadvantages. I'm actually going to post this as well, just for time, but you can see the different advantages and disadvantages of each. And what's important to understand is to understand which mediums your consumers use. So if you're in a small town and you have a local newspaper and a relatively more mature or older audience, a newspaper might work. If you're in a big city and you have a younger audience, then you might want to use outdoor and digital or an interactive, right? So how do I know how much marketing costs me? Well, when you're looking at doing marketing, you want to contact the company that you're doing the marketing with. If you're doing a TV ad, you'd call the TV station. If you're doing a newspaper ad, you'd call the newspaper. This is a magazine, and this is called a rate card, and it shows you all the policies, the product specifications, sizes, and how much each size costs. And this can help you to understand what it's going to cost you to do various marketing activities. Here's just a chart. I'll also post this that shows you kind of what you can expect marketing, different marketing activities to cost. And then lastly, you have to start to think about what is my marketing budget. And so according to the US Small Business Administration, companies invest anywhere between 1 and 10% of their gross sales in advertising. And there's two ways that you can go about budgeting. You can take a top-down or a bottom-up approach. In a top-down approach, it's not the ideal, but you say, here's how much money I have to dedicate to marketing, and then you create a promotional or an advertising. You pick your promotions and your advertising based on that budget. A bottom-up approach is the most preferred, but it's not always feasible. Here's where you say, here's what I'm trying to achieve. Here's what I need to do to achieve that, and this is how much it's going to cost me. Again, not always ideal or doable, but it's probably the best method. So as a business owner or business person, you need to decide whether you're going to take the top-down or bottom-up approach to budgeting for marketing. And so that is the first two P's, product and promotion. In a later video, we'll talk about price and place or distribution.